Welcome to Masters on the Move, the podcast celebrating active, inspiring people who prove that age is no barrier to achievement. Today I'm joined by Mark Anderson of Whangārei, a well-known face at Whangārei Parkrun, where he's now completed over 250 parkruns and contributed countless volunteer hours. Mark's also taken his running far beyond the local scene, from Rotorua Marathon to a 30-kilometre challenge around Rarotonga and several half marathons along the way. But his story isn't just about miles and medals, it's also about resilience. During the Tekapo Half Marathon, Mark suffered a serious injury that could easily have ended his running journey. Instead, he's rebuilding, recovering, and returning to doing what he loves, stronger in both body and spirit. Mark, it's great to have you here. Welcome to Masters on the Move.
Thanks very much, Justin.
Mark, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, sure. I was born in Dunedin in 1962, and I'm the oldest of four children. And we moved up to Auckland when I was just 7 for my father's work. And so I grew up in Auckland on the North Shore boy. And I went to university, studied architecture. Never actually finished my degree, but that's another whole long story. So it's a 5-year course, but didn't quite finish it. During the process of doing my degree, because we had such long university breaks, my friends and I often did building. So following on from my university days, I started building with a wonderful chap, Grant Brady, who went on to found Kia Camper Vans. Wow. So we had a building partnership, and we did an apartment on the 6th floor in Killarney Street in Takapuna for Pete Bosley, who's an architect, and we did another spec house for Simon Carnan near St Stephen's Road in Parnell. Mm-hmm. And then during that process, I was saving up to go overseas. So I did that. We travelled around Europe as young people often do in the camper van. Came back to London to do my OE and do some work. And because I had that building experience, I thought I'll just because I'd never had a job in an architecture office before, I thought I'll just go building here. But I found myself on a miserable winter's day hanging off the side of a 5-story terrace house in the centre of London, and looking down at nothing because there was no health and safety, right. And thinking, oh man, I could die here. So I talked my way, because I hadn't finished my degree, I had to talk my way into a drawing office, and that was located in Twickenham. Mm-hmm. And so I worked there for a year and a half on some very interesting and historic buildings. Fascinating place to work. But unfortunately, where I was living was in North London, so it took a long time to get to work. Involved a bus, a tube, and a train. Whoa. But I did have an opportunity in the second year I was working there. A friend of mine that I was working with went away to do some more of her study, and she had a houseboat on the River Thames, just north, well, south, I think, of but further up the river from Twickenham in a place called Kingston upon Thames. So I lived in a canal boat.
Oh, wow.
For a year, which was fascinating, right on the river there by the bridge that goes over in Kingston. And it wasn't more interesting than canal boat. It wasn't actually a canal boat. What it was an old World War II landing craft. Wow. And it had been converted. So for all intents and purposes, it looked like a long houseboat, but yes. In fact it had been in the D-Day landings at some stage. And other interesting things that happened, I managed to go to the garden party at the palace. Yes. This is in the days of Princess Diana. Uh-huh. A friend of mine had said to me, well, I've put us down in a ballot because everybody from the Commonwealth can just put their names into a ballot. And I was thinking to myself, that would never come up. But anyway, it did. And so I had to get the whole morning suit with the top hat and all of that sort of stuff, and headed off on a lovely summer's day to have luncheon at the palace.
That must have been so interesting.
It was indeed, and a little bit peculiar as well, because everybody kind of sat around and watched them eat their cucumber sandwiches with the crust cut off. Yeah, and after that, well, I went after my little stay there. I went away on holiday to Belgium with the same girl on an Easter. And when I came back, I was arrested at customs, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because they just kind of decided they didn't like the look of me, I think. Frightening experience, because you're just sort of taken off out the back, led down the corridors into an interview room by a guy with a gun. And anyway, they decided I had come to the end of my visa. I was nearly up with it anyway. I only had a few months to go, and put a stamp in my passport saying I had to leave at a certain time. Now, I could have applied for a grandparent residence, which would have allowed me to stay and work there for as long as I wanted. But I decided no, it was time to go home.
That incident made you feel unwelcome.
A little bit. No, I certainly did enjoy my time living in London. That was good. So I came back to New Zealand and got myself a proper office job. Worked for a lovely company called Creative Spaces. It was a real sort of family company, and we did some interesting work along the way. I was there for many years. So a few buildings people might know, North Harbour Stadium and the Albany Stadium pool as well. We did Kelly Tarleton's penguin adventure thing there. That was fun to do. All of it underground, of course. And
yes.
And other people might know, as you're driving into Auckland from the north, the Westlake girls have a tent structure over there, over some sports courts there, and so we're responsible for that. So a lot of it was when I was living in Auckland, but also when we moved up to Whangārei, I did it remotely, so working from home. So you can kind of be anywhere and do work. Anyway, settled down, met a lovely woman, Anne, who became my wife, and we had 2 children, but then unfortunately she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So the only thing we thought we could do was make a lifestyle change so that perhaps she didn't have to work. So we sold our place in Auckland and moved up to Whangārei. She has family in the Hokianga, and also her brother is a doctor, or was a doctor. He's just recently retired in Kensington. And that meant that she didn't have to work for 10 years, which was, that was a good thing. And really all we could do with her, because there's no cure for it. All you can do is try and alleviate it. And then while we were in Whangārei, we had one more child, which was fantastic. So I have 3 lovely children, all of whom run.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes.
How did you first get into running?
Well, actually, my wife's responsible for that. So shortly after we'd moved to Whangārei, she became quite ill, spent a little bit of time in hospital and a good month sort of recovering from a relapse. And after that, she decided that she wanted to improve her wellness. So looking at diet and exercise was one of the things. So she decided she was going to do all of the Northland fun run walks, of course, walking for her, in 1 year, including the Kirikiri Half Marathon, which was quite a thing.
Yes.
And she did the first one, and I sort of went down with her. So that was the Whangārei one, was the beach to basin, I think. And I brought the children down and we cheered her across the finish line. And the children looked, in those days you got the coloured MyZone drinks, and the kids decided, they would quite like those. And I said, well, you've got to do the walk if you want to get the drink. And so that's how we started as a family. So we joined in with my wife and did that. And then it was definitely the Mangawhai one. We were doing the walk, we were partway there, and my eldest Bella, who was 9 at the time, said, I'd like to run. And I looked at Anne and she looked at me, and I said, well, it's not going to be you that runs with her. I think it has to be me.
Yes.
So I'd only previously run for sport, just because I much preferred the team sports and the skills and all of that. So I'd only ever run for fitness before, and when I was a builder, I actually damaged my back, and so I wasn't that keen on running. But anyway, because she took off and started running, I had to go with her, and that was the start of my running journey. And surprisingly, after a while of a lot of pain with the back, it actually has made my back injuries. It's probably resolved it in a lot of ways just by having a stronger core. It's meant that I've had a lot less back injuries. That's how I got into running.
Mark, how did you first get into Whangārei parkrun, and what drew you to that?
Yeah, interesting. A friend of a friend said there was this new event starting up, and I can't remember whether I did the first one or not. I definitely did the second one, but I think in those days, because you had to sign up online and all of that, and I was, computer stuff was, I thought, well, we'll give it a go. So I think I ran the first one. It's hard to remember back now, and just really did enjoy it. It was good stuff. So I keep coming back.
That's fabulous. You've now done over 250 of them, and you've also volunteered on several occasions. You enjoy giving back and volunteering in that way?
Oh, I certainly do. Because of my back injuries, and now because of the injury from Tekapo, though, I don't like the volunteering when you have to stand still for a long time. I really struggle with that. So at the moment, I'm just doing like course checking where I can do my run and keep on the move and find that good. But probably my favorite thing is giving people the tokens at the end, because it's like handing them a prize for the thing that they've done. And people are so, even though they're, a lot of them are really tired from their run, they're just, the smiles on their faces, it's worth $1 million. I think.
Yeah. What is it that's the biggest draw card for you? What makes you keep coming back? Is it the running, or is it that community aspect?
It's probably a combination of the two. I like doing it in the community. I like the fact that parkrun is actually cross-generational. There's everybody there, from babies to 101-year-old people. And they're all doing their thing. They're all on a journey of some kind. And there's no pressure. You do what you want, and you enjoy it, and just that camaraderie that you have. I'm also addicted to that personal challenge of doing well in a run, but I never treat it as a race with other people. It's only ever really a race between me and myself. Yeah.
Making sure that you keep yourself accountable and try to keep your times well.
And I must say, I'm very, how would you say it, inspired by the different people that do the running. They are truly inspirational, many of them, because for some it's not easy.
No, there are some with many challenges that come along there. When you get talking to people, you hear how they've overcome so many challenges, and as you say, it's very inspirational. And you are inspirational too, but I'll get to that in a moment. You've tackled some incredible events. You've done the Rotorua Marathon. You've also done 30 kilometers around Rarotonga. Which of these has been the most memorable for you, and why?
Well, I mean, each one has its own distinct character. I love the Rotorua Marathon. That's the only one I've ever done. I like the fact that people would get dressed up and have the banners and cheer you on. And there's a little hill section there where they play Chariots of Fire as you're running up the hill. And it's
nice.
Not that we're running in slow motion, but but that sort of thing. I've also run quite a few sort of halves around the place, all the local ones like the Kirikiri and Kaitaia, and I've run the forest in Rotorua as well. That's very beautiful and interesting. We did that one because that's in the middle of winter, and it was -3 or something. And I did that with my son, and my wife drove us to the start, and I got out of the car and put on my beanie and my gloves, and I looked at my son, and he had nothing. He was just running in his normal singlet and stuff. It was very cold. So there was ice on the course as well. But then you run through the thermal sections, and that's quite warm. So it's an interesting experience. And I've been running with a couple of friends, and we sort of decided we would do sort of running tourism, if you like. So that was one of them. Another one was to do the around Rarotonga, which is a 30k run. So we went there for a week to do that. It's dead flat, and you run around the edge, and it's just basically one big circle, but it was quite windy when we were there. So you run into I found myself sort of running into the face of the wind for at least an hour, and I was quite only really about a third of the way through, and I was in quite a dark place, and a lovely lady who does parkrun in Dunedin came up beside me and cheered me up, and I ran with her for a few kilometres before she took off. And it's a great event because they have a 5k meet and greet in the week before, and then they have a celebration which happened to be at the resort we were staying at as well, prize giving and that sort of thing. So you meet some lovely people, and at the end, a buffet of tropical fruits like you've never seen.
Yes.
So it was worth doing the run just for that.
Yeah.
And another interesting run that I used to like doing, it's no longer happening, but maybe it'll come back, and that's the Three Pigs in the Glenbervie Forest. And that is a full marathon over 2 days of the weekend. So on the Saturday in the morning, you run a 16k out and back, and then there's a 5k, which is part of the Whangārei Harriers' normal weekly run, and then there's a half marathon on the Sunday. That's an interesting one because the course is set by Brian Barrick, and he doesn't tell you where you're running until you line up on the day.
Yeah.
So you never know quite what it's going to be like, and it's quite brutal. It's very up and down, and there's a few falls happened and all of that sort of thing. And one year we did it in a tropical storm, so it wasn't cold, but man, it rained on us. And at the halfway there was a volunteer helping out, and I've never been so pleased to see a man with a bag of aeroplane lollies to hand out at the halftime before you turned around and headed back for home.
Nice.
So that's the Three Pigs. It's an awesome run.
Yeah, well, let's hope it comes back. It sounds amazing. Yeah. I haven't heard about that one. What do you enjoy most about taking your running beyond the local scene to events like these ones that you've been talking about?
Well, I guess I like the fact that you can go to different places, meet people just randomly as you're doing it, and make a whole big event out of it for yourself. Different terrains, sometimes it can be very hot, sometimes it can be quite rugged. And sometimes there's a speedy course as well.
Yeah, and make a bit of a holiday of it too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and we often will meet up, like when we went to Tekapo, we met up with various children and all stayed together, and it was great. Yeah.
Fabulous. You're a designer by profession. How do you balance a creative job like that, and often desk-based, with staying active? How do you fit it all in?
Yeah, that is a real challenge. And as I've got older, I'm more desk-based now, doing a lot less sort of visits to site and things like that. And because I work from home, yes, it's the challenge is actually moving around. So I find that running is the perfect foil for that. And it's a busy work life. There's a lot of demands, people, wanting this, need that, what's the answer to this question, all of that. And what I like about running is you can just free your mind of all of that, let go all the worries of the day, and just enjoy wherever you are. And we're very privileged in Whangārei to have a lot of interesting places that you can run in a very short distance. We live in central Whangārei, so you can be up a mountain, along a river.
That's right.
Run up to the dam, no problem. Just maybe 10 minutes away, 20 minutes away from your home. So that's lovely.
Yeah, we're very fortunate in Whangārei to have the facilities.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Let's talk a little bit about your injury and your recovery journey. You suffered a serious injury during the Tekapo Half Marathon. Take us back to what happened there.
Right. Yes. It's a sort of a spring, but quite a cold time when the Tekapo event is on, and it has everything up to a 50k as well. And I've been training probably mostly all year with my friends that we've been away, Jack and Christine, and yeah, I met Christine at the start, and we looked up. So this race, you run from the centre. If you know Tekapo, you run from the centre of town up Mount John, where the Lincoln University observatories are. I think it's Lincoln, Canterbury, could be either. And then you run down, and then along back towards the Tekapo pools, and then there's another half of the race sort of thing, which is on the flat after you go over the bridge that heads to the Church of the Good Shepherd. And at the start, where I was looking up at the top of Mount John, where we'd been up the other day, and I was thinking, I said to Christine, man, I'm a little bit daunted by this. Famous last words. So anyway, got up to the top of the hill, and I realized actually that it was a different kind of race, because there were people stopping and taking selfies and having chats. So it was quite a touristy thing.
Yeah, right.
And then running back down Mount John, still heading away from town, that was more like a semi-controlled tumble, quite frankly. I thought it would be on gravel paths, but in fact we were running in the fields, and there were rabbit holes and rocks and all kinds of things. Anyway, I managed to make it down there safely, and then we turned to run back towards the pools and Tekapo, and running in, I think, vehicle ruts is probably how you'd describe it. Mm-hmm. And so about 8 k's in, and I just clipped my back toe of my stride on a rock and fell, and I fell quite heavily. Now normally if I fall, I would sort of go a little bit sideways, maybe land on my hip, and you get a bit of a bump, but everything's usually all right. And I came down quite hard and didn't take my own advice. Usually I tell people if they've fallen over, just check yourself out before you do anything else, make sure everything's in working order. I didn't do it, and I should have. And I stood straight up, and I had been, because it was quite a gnarly run, I had been wearing a soft brace, one of those ones where your knee pokes out a little hole. Oh, yes. And it had been twisted to the outside of my leg. And I stood up, went to turn it back, and didn't realize that it actually the act had dislocated my knee. So that then buckled underneath me, and I tumbled head first over the bank. And in order to, not hit the ground with my head, I twisted, and there was an audible tear, and I tore the patella tendon right off my kneecap, and was lying in a heap in the grass. I didn't know Jack was just behind me, and he came down to see what had happened, see if I was all right. And there I was. So we undid the soft brace, and there was my kneecap off to one side. Another lady jumped down the bank and said, I know how to straighten this out. And I was a little bit nervous about that, but as it turned out, because it wasn't attached to my lower leg any longer, when my leg was straightened, it did pop into line, but the quad muscles pull the kneecap up towards your hips. So I couldn't weight bear it all. And I usually run under on my bib, under the name Elvis, which was a nickname that I've been given when I belonged to a tennis club in Auckland. And the club captain had a nickname for everybody. I didn't find that out for some time. But anyway, because I had some sideburns, my nickname was Elvis. So I've always run under Elvis. And when one of the officials came down, you could hear him talking on the walkie-talkie, saying that Elvis has left the race. And they didn't seem inclined to get a helicopter, probably because of the expense of it. Couldn't get a vehicle to me. Maybe a quad bike if they'd had one, but they didn't anyway. So in order to get out, I put the brace back on, tied it up as tight as I can, because that was what was connecting my lower leg to my upper leg. And Jack helped me, and I had to walk for about 1.5 k's before we could get to the St. John's ambulance people. So that was quite an experience. In the meantime, Christine, who had seen what had happened, had run on, and she'd let Anne and the children know that something had happened to me. She wasn't sure what. So they were quite nervous. Anyway, we got bundled into this ute and then taken to the tent. and they knew it was serious, but there's nothing medical in Tekapo. So we had to drive all the way to Timaru, which is another hour and a half away, to get to the hospital there. And, usual story, you wait in the waiting room, and then eventually when they saw me, the nurse went, "Oh, this doesn't look good. I'll see a doctor." And they explained what had happened.
Yes.
And they were disinclined there to do the operation. It sort of sits between emergency and elective. You have to have the surgery done within sort of 7 days to 10 days, otherwise the repair isn't viable. So they gave me my x-rays and photocopies of my x-rays, and said, line up, and when you get back home from your holiday, line up at the A&E in Whangārei, and they'll sort you out. So I went back to the family. We drove back, and everybody else had a lovely rest of the holiday while I was walking around on crutches. So I had a like a cricket pad, but which you put on backwards just to stabilise the thing, because honestly I couldn't do anything with it, and it was, while it was disconnected, there was not too much pain if I was secure in the position, but there were other times it just it was very, very painful. So duly, when we got back to Whangārei, lined up at A&E, saw how many? Overall, I think 3 doctors who also do parkrun. Oh. One was the A&E doctor, and he confirmed what had happened, and I went on the waiting list. And because I was a local and could come anytime, it didn't take long, and so the race was on the Saturday. By the next Friday, I was having the operation.
Tell us about the operation. What was that, to resecure the...
Yes, so basically the tendon's no longer attached to the kneecap, and they don't take any sort of soft tissue imaging of it. So I guess when they open up your knee, they then assess what they're going to do with it, and you can have a partial tear or a complete tear. The surgeon explained that a complete tear is probably the best, because it's got to be sewn back on, essentially. So if the surface of it is quite damaged, it's more difficult. So what they do is they run some wires through the tongue of the tendon, which is still attached to your lower leg, like lacing up your shoes. They drill 3 vertical holes in your kneecap, pull the end of the wires through that as tight as they can, tie it in a knot, and that brings the remnants of the tendon, which is still on the kneecap, to the tongue of the tendon, if you like. And then it's a long process of healing. So the scars are similar to if you have a knee replacement. So you end up with, I had 28 staples in there, as well as stitches underneath. And when I woke up from the surgery, it was quite funny, because after I sort of wasn't dizzy anymore, they said, right, time to go home, and they'd given me what's called a nerve blocker, so I couldn't feel anything on that side from the hip down. And I thought, how on earth am I going to be able to get home anyway? I did, but because I couldn't feel my foot at all, I ended up dragging the entry mat to the hospital through the wind lobby there into the outside before I noticed. And then the long journey of healing, that's for sure. It dawned on me slowly what a serious thing I had done to myself, and how long it was actually going to take to recover. It's not like healing from a broken bone. It's actually a long process for tendons to heal. I worked all the way through, so I knew I was going to be spending at least 2 to 3 months in the splint that they gave me, on crutches. That's a fun life on crutches, because it's so hard. Because I couldn't weight bear on that leg for such a long time. Just getting a cup of tea was a mission, and getting it to somewhere without spilling all of it. And there were a few funny moments along the way because of all of the swelling that happens in your leg. My wife actually was able to impress a smiley face in my puffy foot, and it just stayed there. there were also a lot of painkillers involved as well, and had to wean myself off that one. I decided I'd had enough of it because it doesn't make you feel very, very good doing that, but necessary. And wearing my Garmin, it was telling me that actually my heart rate had gone up 20 beats per minute just trying to heal itself. So being stationary and trying to heal itself. So it just shows you what an effort it is for the body to try and recover from an injury like that. But I was determined that whatever I could do, I would do, and I didn't want to miss the parkrun. So on my crutches, every Saturday, once I was able to, I would go down there and I'd do the crossword, waiting for everybody to come past and give them a cheer and a wave as they did. Although a lot of parkrunners actually are so focused on their run that they don't see you, even though you're right there, standing there with your crutches and everything. But anyway, that was lovely, and I wanted to just keep involved and still feel like I was part of it, even if I couldn't run at the time.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always coffee after a parkrun. So,
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. And then finally got the splint off just before Christmas, which was a nice time to be able to do that. And I hadn't really listened to the surgeon. He sort of waved his hand over my upper leg and said, all of this will be gone. And I, with all the information that you're giving, I didn't really hear that one. And my wife did. And sure enough, when the splint came off, I was like, where has my leg gone? Because of that static time, it just absolutely disappeared. So not only then are you trying to walk on a knee that's injured, but you have no muscle in which to support that knee at all. So I did my first parkrun, I think it was on Christmas Day, I think it was. And it took me such a long time to do just a small amount, and I had like a Nordic pole to just keep me steady. But anyway, for the well-being, I needed that for my mental health, just to be able to do something.
Yes.
And then started a long period of just walking. I didn't really want to do a proper park run until I knew I could do the distance, because I didn't want people waiting around for an hour and a half while I was, way at the back somewhere. So once I knew I could do it in about an hour, then I started doing the park run and recording my time. Slowest park run ever for me.
Yeah.
And started physio, which was good. And it did dawn upon me, though, that if I didn't do the exercises and do them frequently and do them well, then I wasn't going to make a recovery, because not only did I have no muscle, but I also had probably only somewhere between 10 and 20 degrees of bend from the knee. So that was a long process of exercising and stretching and exercising and stretching, because obviously you couldn't put too much pressure on it because it would pull apart. And the surgeon warned me that if it fell apart again, there's probably a very poor chance of having a good result for a second surgery. So I always had that in the back of my mind of don't take it too far, just take your time, and I sort of gave myself mentally a year. And that's kind of the advice they gave me, although I think it's actually more like 2 years to get back to where you've got, because particularly at an older age, I'm 63 now, the act of trying to build muscle is actually not as easy. So it's a similar, if anybody follows the rugby, a similar injury to what happened to Cam Roigard, but he was back within 6 months. But of course he's 3 times younger than me, and had all of the help from physios and a
lot of professionals around
professionals, just giving him advice, and
that must have been so tough, knowing that you've always been so active, to all of a sudden being you couldn't do anything. You're wasting away that muscle. Those muscles were going.
Yeah, and not only that, I've always helped Anne as much as I could to take the load of heavy lifting for her with her multiple sclerosis and everything. So I had to watch everything falling apart at home, like gardening and stuff like that, where I normally spend 4 to 5 hours every weekend trimming trees and all of that sort of stuff. And I just had to let it go. It was really hard to do that. And even like I started vacuuming as soon as I could, sort of thing. But even on one leg, vacuuming is a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was determined just to keep on going. And my lovely daughters bought me a subscription to Kensington Fitness, to the gym there. And after about 3 months, I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. One of my daughters was up from university, and I thought I'd do that. But it's up several flights of stairs, and I struggled to get up the stairs. So I thought, no, it's too soon. So anyway, one of my daughters showed me how to use some of the equipment, and we just left it. And I came back to it a few months later,
Right.
And then started that journey of trying to toughen things up again, being mindful not to do too much.
Were there times that you thought, oh, you're not going to get back there?
Absolutely, because that bend in my leg and just the weakness of it, yeah.
How did you stay positive, and how did you keep going through those times?
I guess I'm a positive person, and at the end of this, I haven't put any limitations on myself. I may or may not get back to where I was. Doesn't bother me if I don't, because we're all limited in some way, and as we age, those limits change what you might be able to achieve, and you can look back on your achievements in sport or whatever when you were young and say, oh, I wish I could do that again. But it's never going to happen. So what you have to be is happy with the new reality for you, and still find the challenge and the joy in what is the new time, if it's running, that you can achieve. But one thing, because my friend Christine, and she's been great. I've done some of the body balance yoga classes. I'd never done anything like that before, and sure, there's some exercises I really struggle with because of the weakness and the lack of mobility, but that has been so good. And I'm glad I took those classes before Tekapo as well, because balancing on one leg for 3 months, that was really, really helpful. And Christine said to me, you can't just do running now. You have to do other things. Yes. So, yeah, and I hadn't been to a gym since the early 90s either, because it's not really my thing. But I realised that was going to be necessary in order to get the balance back and the strength in my legs. And I've just recently had an assessment. So I did some work at the gym, but it was just, stuff I was doing myself, didn't really have a plan. And luckily now I'm at a point where I'm strong enough to actually do some targeted exercises. So that's what I'm going to be doing in the next year, is just keep on building. And I see no reason why potentially I couldn't actually run faster. I don't know, but I hope.
Yeah.
Because absolutely. I'm doing these things that I didn't do before. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yes.
You touched on the running community and how important that was to you, and you took yourself down there even though you couldn't take part. You just wanted to be there. And I did notice you there coming down, and I've watched your journey, and it's been so inspiring. How important has the running community been for you in your rehabilitation and getting back there?
Words can't describe it, because normally when I run, you sort of finish, and the people that you finish at around about the same time are the people you talk to most. Starting from the very back and working my way through, I have met so many wonderful people along the way, and I thank them all for their encouragement and their wise words of don't do too much, and even gifts of compression socks to help with the swelling and things like that. So, I think that the running community in parkrun and Whangārei has been a big part of my healing in a lot of ways, and I thank them all for it.
That's fantastic to hear. The running community is so great, and especially that parkrun community. Yeah.
And also when you're walking, you're able to talk a lot more as well. So you can make better connection with people than perhaps if you're running.
Yeah, and it takes you longer, so you've got more time too.
Exactly.
More topics to talk about.
Yes.
What lessons did that experience teach you about patience, resilience, and self-belief?
Well, certainly patience, because, often as runners, we just want to get in there and just do the very best that we can, and that just simply was not possible. And that the best you can do is a staged thing. I guess I've always been a sort of resilient person, and certainly my wife Anne has taught me a lot about resilience with her health journey as well. And I've seen her at points, quite sad, but also to come through that and push through and do the achievements that she has in her life since her diagnosis. Life changes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's got worse. No. Certainly in a lot of ways it gets better because you're actually more grateful for what you have.
Yes.
And you recognise that actually life is a gift.
Yes.
And don't take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. How has your approach to running and your training changed since the injury?
Well, yeah, when I started back running, once I realised that the next step was running, there was obviously quite a lot of risk there of falling again, and the leg just would not do what I wanted it to do, because I've actually had to teach myself how to walk again because everything was different. So my gait was all wrong, and because I'd been on one leg for such a long time that nothing was quite right. And I describe it a bit like America's Cup, trying to get up on the foils.
Yes.
And it didn't, as in being able to run with two legs in a sort of half by normal gait. And it wasn't always possible, and sometimes I just, rather than so I ended up sort of dragging my leg, my weaker leg along. So slow and steady is the way that it's happened.
Yes.
And I'm now doing the strength training, and I'm trying now to get a better physical shape to my running, because the tendency is, your head goes forward and you slump, because I lost all of my aerobic fitness as well in this process. I mean, my Garmin thought I was dead, I'm sure, because there was like 30 to 50 Ks a week and then nothing for 3 months.
Yeah.
And that's been a long journey. So it hasn't just been building muscle and strengthening and getting greater range of movement in my leg, but also the aerobic fitness. And I'm still on that journey trying to rebuild that. But I've thought to myself, let's take the time. You ran how you ran before and didn't put too much thought into it. So I've been looking at a few running videos to look at better posture and different types of training. I used to just train and run pretty much not quite as fast as I could go, but close to it, if you know what I mean. Now I'm trying to do more slower tempo runs, and then I'm also trying to do more, what do you call it?
Doing any interval training?
Interval training, that's the word. Yeah, so trying to do that and not do too much at each way, and so that's my hope, is that I see no reason why there's a limitation there if you do the right things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and having that cross training and doing that strength training too is going to help you build even better resilience and strengthen those muscles that you need.
But it's a busy life, finding time for your normal running, parkrun, gymnasium stuff, yoga and body balance.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's hard to fit it all in, especially with a busy job and a busy home life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good on you for doing it. What are your current goals? Do you have any destination runs maybe planned, some of those?
I would like to. A little voice in my head said, have a go at the Tekapo Half Marathon this year, and then the more sensible voice said, don't be stupid. Not this year, but next year.
Yes.
So I can run 10 Ks quite comfortably now at a reasonable pace. But to do anything longer would just be crazy, because it is still injured. I can feel it. It swells, it hurts, all of those sorts of things. And I asked my physio, is it going to hurt forever? And she said, yeah, probably.
Oh.
So it's just something but it's hurt that it's at a discomfort level. It's not the excruciating pain I had. So there's something that you can cope with. And so yes, I'm very hopeful that at some stage there will be another destination run
awesome.
Of a reasonable distance.
Yes, fabulous. Yeah. Well, it's so great to see you coming down to parkrun. We've all watched that journey, from being on the crutches on the sideline, not being able to do anything, to walking with that one stick, and now then seeing your progress to without it. and then now seeing you run again, it's really an inspiring journey that you've been on. It's really impacted a lot of people at Parkrun, and so well done. Congratulations.
And thank you to all the people at Parkrun who have been on this journey with me.
Yes,
I must say.
Absolutely. There might be some runners out there that are listening to this that have maybe setbacks with injuries and stuff like that. What would you say to people that are facing this kind of thing? How has your experience, what has it taught you?
Well, I think even if I could never have run again, I would have just found something else in life to enjoy. A lot of it is how we look at things as opposed to what our limitations may be. So, and there is more to life than running, and the sport that perhaps we love, we can give back in other ways, I'm sure, and enjoy other aspects of life. So sport and running, that's one thing, but family and friends, that's another.
Yeah, that's such a great way of looking at it, that it wasn't you would have found something to do that would have been fabulous. Is there anything else on your heart that you'd like to share with people?
Oh, I don't think so. I think I've probably talked long enough. But yeah, it's been both a joy and a trial.
Yeah.
And finding at stages that, honestly, when I first came out of the operation, I was weak as a lamb. I couldn't do anything, and I relied on people, and even maybe a little shout out to John Kent, who came and visited me. Never visited me from before this, but just wanted to see that I was okay. That was lovely. And a big shout out to my friends too, particularly Jack, that helped me up off the ground there on the day, and made sure that I was going to get to the medical care that I needed.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Great to have friends like that. Mark, thank you for sharing your story with us today. From your early days at Parkrun to your adventures at Rotorua and Rarotonga, and the remarkable comeback you're making after that injury. Your journey is a great reminder that determination and community support can carry us through even the toughest setbacks. To our listeners, if you've been inspired by Mark's story, maybe it's time to lace up your shoes, head out the door, and find your own version of movement and motion. That's it for today's episode of Masters on the Move. Until next time, keep moving, and remember, it's never too late to chase new goals.